wasn't a great boxer. He was a knockout guy. That's why people wanted to see him fight. We wasn't there to see his sweet science. We wasn't there for that. All right, thank you. Welcome back to another episode of the Mixed Company Podcast. Of course, I'm one half of the show. I'm Jamieson, joined by, as always, Luis. Luis, what's going on, man?
Oh, what is going on? Boy, I am here ready to take the biggest L in the world after the Ryan Garcia fight over the weekend. I got a little spicy beforehand. I'm never afraid to admit when I was wrong, but we're going to talk all about that and just kind of the reasons why I was very, very down on Ryan as a fighter. But the good thing is we're not going to be talking about this alone. We have a very special episode. Today we have a guest of Boxing Legends Lounge on YouTube, TikTok, and we'll let him promote his own social media because I don't want to miss anything. But we're going to invite into the ring the man himself. Please welcome Legend. How's it going, man?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all feeling?
Doing
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, fantastic, and ready to eat some crow today after this weekend's boxing activity. So before we get into any of that, Legend, please tell us about you and about how long you've been a boxing fan and where that love of boxing came from.
Oh man, whew. Well, actually, my father was a boxer. But my father was an all around athlete. So me seeing my father, doing combat sports, martial arts, boxing, even just competing. When I was about 7 years old, a lot of people don't know this. I actually was a basketball player before I got into boxing. So a lot of people don't know that. But it all started with my father. He put boxing gloves in my hand, and he never told me to go fight. I was crazy enough to want to go fight. And growing up, I was in school and always had fights. So he was like, "Listen, you might as well just do something productive with that." And so I've been a boxing fan since a young boy, watching Mike Tyson. Roy Jones Jr. was one of my favorite fighters growing up. So that's really how everything started for me, and in my journey.
Okay, well, and that brings up a good question I've always wondered because I've taken boxing classes. I've done some sparring. I was never good at it. Definitely got my ass kicked a lot. But I've never been interested in any other sport. Boxing is the only sport I've ever been passionate about. But you having played basketball and also boxed, what's the difference in the type of workout? I mean, obviously you have to be in peak physical condition to do either of those things. Lots of cardio, strength training. In terms of what you're doing in the gym, well, how would you say the difference in workouts are?
Just as far as like mobility, movement, stance, basketball, obviously we shooting the ball, right? And boxing is more so your punches and throwing punches on at a certain speed, a certain angle. It's a lot of technicalities to it. So going into a boxing gym versus playing basketball, it was just a whole lot different. Obviously basketball is a team sport. Boxing is, you don't got no team in the ring for you. So the workouts is a little bit more, for me, it was a little bit more strenuous, right? I remember the first time I went into the boxing gym and I was hitting the punching bag, I literally wanted to throw up. It looks good, right? On camera, we see everybody hitting the punching bag and it looks amazing. You see even like a Floyd Money Mayweather hitting the pads and we like, oh, I could do that. And you get in there, boy, listen, your life flashed before your eyes.
I got you. I was early on throwing 1-2s, and I was like, I thought I was gonna die. So I definitely understand that. But you've done some actual boxing. You've fought as an amateur and as a professional. You're see, what are you 16-1 was your record? Is that correct?
16-1. Yeah. So I started, like I said, I was boxing as an amateur. I fought in the Golden Gloves. The Golden Gloves was actually my first loss that I've ever took. Right. I felt like I was robbed in that fight, but it is what it is, right? But yeah. So I have an amateur background. The difference for me than a lot of the guys that I came up with is that I was in and out, right? So I was in and out. I was playing basketball. I was young, so I was into a whole bunch of different sports. So I wasn't as consistent in the amateurs when I was coming up. The way some people was just boxing. That's it. For me, it was boxing, basketball. I played baseball as well too, so did a lot of different things. So I didn't come up traditionally like all the other amateurs. And then I got to a point where I said, listen, I wanted to take this further, right? And like I told y'all before, my father was a boxer, but he was only an amateur. So for me, I said I want to take it a little bit further than that, and I went pro. A lot of my fights was overseas, so I fought in Mexico, I fought in Japan. You know, I fought in a lot of different countries, predominantly mainly in Mexico. And I fought, you know, I think I had like 1 or 2 fights out here in the States. But other than that, you know, I was kind of like overseas. There was a lot of politics going on, and you know how the boxing game is.
So what made you want to walk away from it all?
Um, I think at a certain point, it just kind of like ran its course, right? And I had the mindset of like Floyd, right? Like I didn't want boxing to retire me. I wanted to retire from the sport, right? I wanted to leave with all my faculties. And a lot of people don't know, like, you know, the things that you see behind closed doors is, you know, is like I said, a lot of politics. And I, you know, and not to, you know, not to blame anybody, but I never really had people in my corner that really pushed me that far, right? A lot of what I was able to accomplish was based on hard work, right? I was the guy that a lot of people really didn't know about then, and I just came up on the scene, and you know, and did pretty, you know, did pretty decent for myself.
Right. Well, I think that's really awesome. You know, even though I just did classes in a gym, sparring with some friends, you know, it definitely gave me a different perspective on professional boxing when I watch, you know, fighters and how they move. And not that I could ever do anything like that, you know, but it's just it just brings a new insight. I just saw it in a whole different way after that, and it's super cool that you have that experience. And I'm glad that you're here. Talk to us about these fights that happened over the weekend. So let's dive right into the news. Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios. Ryan Garcia just had a career-saving performance on Saturday. After I'll just, you know what, I won't talk. I will say myself. I straight up said, I'm on TikTok saying this. I won't hide from it. I expected Barrios to win, and I said I wanted Ryan to lose because I did not want him to be at the main event. I was fine with him being on the second or third line on the cards, but I said that there was a lot more talented fighters that deserved that spot more than Ryan Garcia. And he showed me over the weekend. So, want to get your take on what we saw, Legend, and you know this. Did anybody expect? Have you heard from anybody that expected Ryan to come out looking the way he did?
Well, you know, on my panel, it'd be a lot of, you know, different sides, right? So I was a little bit different from you. I wanted Ryan to win, right? Because I really wanted to see him do the rematch with Devin Haney. That's really why I wanted Ryan to win, right? I wanted the rematch because I felt in my spirit. I said, if Ryan lose this fight, I don't think Devin really might be interested in a rematch with Ryan because he just lost to Rolly prior to. Then you lose to Barrios, right? And so I don't think the hype around that fight will be that much noise. You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, I wanted him to win. I did believe that Ryan could win, right? Depending on the mentality of Ryan, right? We don't know. Like you know, it's kind of like, is Ryan here or is he not there? Then at one point in time, we see Ryan, for the most part, boxing in his kitchen / living room, right? And I said jokingly to everybody, uh, I said, if we get this version of Ryan, have him in the kitchen all day, every day. I need that man. Have him in the kitchen and in his living room, and we're going to get that version of Ryan. And I thought that was a spectacular showcase that Ryan put on Saturday. You know, so I felt that Ryan could win this fight just because he has power, he has speed. Mario Barrios, he tends to walk in a straight line, doesn't take his head off the center line. So I felt like if Ryan had Ryan was on point, I felt like Ryan was going to be able to win. Did I think it was going to look like that? No, I didn't think it was going to look like that.
I don't think any of us did. Jameson, did you? What were you surprised after you saw him on Saturday?
Not really surprised. I was more impressed, not surprised. I was impressed that he took care of business in a professional manner. It was a very business-like approach, and we have both been very critical of his preparation for fights, for his professionalism in the ring. We've all been critical of like, hey man, he's talented, but he don't take it seriously enough, or he's talented, but he's a knucklehead. This looked like a professional situation where he's hopefully ready to take the next turn in his career. Now going forward, he's mentioned some names I don't know if he can really do much with, but he brought up Shakur's name, and that's not a good match for him. that's not a good match for him. But I get it. He came out well. He looked well prepared. He looked like he was in shape. He looked focused. Whether he took Adderall, whatever, he looked very focused on Saturday, and it was very like, hey man, I'm here to do a job, and that's it. Now that being said, Legend mentioned Haney. That rematch I don't know if that rematch ever even happens because so much history there. I think the match is probably going to be Ryan and Shakur for a lot of reasons because you have the popularity of Ryan and the greatness of Shakur. That probably is the next match that ends up happening because Shakur's as great a fighter as he hasn't had a lot of big fights. And it's not necessarily his fault. It's a whole lot of, go on and on about that. But in terms of his brand and his ability, I think it's probably best to put those two in a matchup later this summer, even in the fall, and market it up and get a sold out venue of 20,000 plus and have Shakur win either in a 12-round UD or a knockout or a stoppage somewhere. I think that's where we're headed to. But I think that's the next move just because the way the money is right now. We'll talk about it more in this show. We're seeing more matches get made because of money, not because of styles. Everything right now is business related. It's not because of, oh, this fighter versus this fighter is a great matchup. Nah, people are trying to get this bread, bro. They're trying to get as much as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and we're also talking about what Ryan's next step is. I agree. I think Shakur is the best matchup to come. But here's the thing about why I was so down on Ryan. To be very clear, I did say he's got the strength. He can catch. Anybody can get caught. And if Barrios gets caught with a big punch, it could be lights out. So I'm not sitting here saying that I was just hating, saying he's trash, blah blah blah. Anything like that. I did say that, yeah, I was speaking based on his history of what do we say, 2 losses in a no contest, like in a row. That's the last 3 fights. So at this time, it's like you can't blame a guy for expecting more of the same from Ryan. But let me go ahead and we want to give a shout out to people in the comments here on our TikTok. Right after Ryan won, he got somebody calling me out, and again, respectfully, he said, "I hope this shows the haters that Ryan is one of those top guys. People always trying to get him out of that conversation." That comes from Alex. Let me say this, and I want to get your take on it. Ryan looked great on Saturday. Ryan is a talented fighter. I still will not say that he is one of the greats. Legend, what do you think about that?
No, I don't think right now. I wouldn't say that he's one of the greats. I think Ryan still has a little bit more to do to become one of the greats. For me, I don't really like to cap a lot of these fighters, right? Because I feel like once we cap them, right, we put them on this pedestal, and it's like, okay, what more? So, for example, right, I know everybody loves Shakur. Not to go too far, but I know everyone loves Shakur. Going into the Shakur and Teo fight, I told a lot of people, I said, listen, I don't have Shakur as an A-class fighter right now. And the reason why is because he has the talent. And I think, people say by the eye test, I can acknowledge someone's skill set by the eye test, right? But what also make great fighters? Doing against top level competition. And again, a lot of fighters didn't want to fight Shakur or what have you. That's not his fault, right? But we still haven't seen it yet. And so my thing with Ryan is I still want to be able to see it against the top level competition. Do I think that he has the skill set? Yes. Right? Does he have fundamentals? Absolutely. A lot of people look at Ryan as a YouTube star, but people don't realize that Ryan has an amateur background as well too. Right? So he's very knowledgeable and has the IQ in that ring. So no, I wouldn't say he's one of the greats, but popularity wise, yes. But as far as boxing, I think he's still got a little bit more work to do.
Sure, but I also think that there's, being able to sell a fight and being a great fighter, which, I didn't realize this at the end of the match on Saturday that they said Ryan had never fought for a world title, or sorry, never won a world title. And I was like, wait a second, you're right. I guess it didn't really it didn't come to mind because he's so popular and he's such a big name. I was like, how the hell did you get so popular by never being a world champion? So I don't know. I mean, Jamieson, I'll throw it back to you. I mean, what does he have to do? What does Ryan have to do specifically to be great in this era?
It's about consistency. I think anything is being really good consistently. That's what makes greats, right? Not being great one fight, being suspect the next. Being an elite fighter, being great is being really good every time out. Where there's a certain expectation of when we tune in to watch you fight, there are certain expectations, and those expectations are met every Saturday night when we watch you fight. I think that's what greatness is, in my opinion, when it comes to boxers. Now every boxer has an off night. Now here's the thing: some people's off night gets beat. Some people's off night makes an ugly fight. It's a difference. But in terms of great, I think the consistency is the key. Look at Terrence Crawford. He was great for a long time. He was a very good fighter for a long time. He had his fights that didn't go so well, but his off nights still won 117, 111. You know what I mean? His off nights weren't draws, they weren't losses, you know? So that's the difference between his off night and someone else's off night where it might get dropped or they might lose a decision. So I think that's the biggest thing. Look at Floyd, his off nights were a split decision maybe or a close decision than normal, but it wasn't the oh shit, it's a career defining. It was never that for the all-time greats. So I think that's the biggest thing is consistency and having expectations and meeting those expectations every time out. I think that's when you look at a boxer like, okay, that's what makes a great fighter.
So then, if y'all had to break it down, what is it that got Ryan so much success, such a big fan base, such a loyal fan base? I mean, is it that he has knockout power and that just people like watching those YouTube compilations? Legend. I mean, that's what I think. That's why I brought that up. But I mean, he seems to have a lot of fervor for somebody that, I'm sorry, has just never shown that consistency and never shown, never taken on great opponents, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I think Ryan, because of his speed, right, and then Ryan also knew how to capitalize off the social media market, right, and I thought that was amazing as well too. And then with his speed and everything like that, people's like, oh wow, this guy's fast. And then when we see him go in the ring and he's knocking guys out, right? Ryan has one of the highest knockout percentages in the game. So not only are you entertaining, because remember, boxing is a business, so it's also about entertaining. So Ryan understood the entertainment aspect, right? Not more so of like, his boxing fundamentals. His boxing fundamentals, only got him but so far. But him understanding, right? Him understanding entertainment, right? That boxing is a business. One thing that when I was coming up, they used to always tell me, you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't know how to put butts in the seats, then what are we doing here, right? So the fact that Ryan understood that and he capitalized that, even if you think about going into this fight with Mario Barrios, what was Ryan doing? He was streaming. So anytime you get a chance to stream, and then now you bring that culture with you, and you bring more people with you, and then you going on other people's streams. Now their people get to see who you are. And then so now it creates this massive following. And then, Ryan got the charms, he got the looks, he got the slick hair. They promoted him as the next golden boy.
Right. And that's completely fair. And I guess I understand. My take was always that you've got the skill on one hand, you got the social media presence putting the butts in the seats. To me, Ryan was always kind of more on the other one, more the social media side than the actual skills in the ring. But again, this is speaking of where he was before, and definitely we have a Ryan 2.0 after Saturday. Sure. Jamieson, for you specifically, you and I have talked about how excited we are about a Haney rematch versus Garcia. You haven't been always super stoked about it, but how do you feel now after seeing those two guys and what they look like?
I don't think it happens. I don't think so. I think that I don't see Haney winning that, to be honest with you. I think that whatever happened during that. I think they're both ready and willing to move on. Obviously, Haney's situation rebounded some lately with his last fight. I can see a situation where, I can see where it's Shakur versus Ryan in a big venue somewhere in the next 6 months. I think that's a bigger play because there's more money at stake. And like he just mentioned, Ryan comes with a whole different cast of fans that Shakur don't have and probably never will have because that's not his kind of thing. He brings a non-boxing fan value to a fight to where I don't know how many other boxers can say that. So if you have a chance to make a fight with a guy like that, you probably do it. Now, the whole thing with Haney's name is not as big as it could or should be or maybe ever will be. I think Shakur's name is a lot bigger now, especially the last couple fights he's had, the results he's that have taken place with his last couple fights. I think that's the fight to make. Haney would feel like a step in the wrong direction for Ryan as of this situation. Plus, with Ryan, things are still a bit unpredictable, so you want to take advantage while his value is high because you don't want him losing to Haney and then talking about, he's going to fight Shakur. No, that ain't going to work. So I think you take advantage while his value is as high as it is right now, you make that big fight night happen.
Yeah, and let's not neglect to mention that Shakur was at that fight. He was guest commentating, so he's definitely knows what to do with his win and his newfound stardom. Like, he's out there. He's showing his face. He's being very charming on the mic. So, legend. Other than Shakur, are there any other fights for Ryan Garcia that he could take that would kind of make sense for him, or is that pretty much the obvious next step? Do you think?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really didn't want to see the Shakur fight versus Ryan, right? And the reason why for me it didn't really make sense. Now I get it from a business standpoint, right? But for me, I think story sells, right? And Ryan and Devin has the perfect story, right? The revenge. Devin saying, I want to get it back in blood, and the hype around that. Now, I know recently Devin said that the ship has sailed, but from what, some people say that could be a marketing tactic, right? So it could be that. So I want to see the fight. I don't know if we will, because for me, right, it's kind of like, was it the PEDs or did you get beat? Like, right, like which one was it? Did Ryan have your number or what? And I think as a boxer for Devin, I think as you want to get clarification on that, and clarification is getting it in the getting it back in the ring. Now to answer your question, if Ryan, I like Ryan, if let's say Richardson Hitchens could go to 147, right? I like that fight. I think that's a good matchup. I think Richardson Hitchens, I think right now him being at 140, I think he's probably draining himself. At 140, I didn't like the way he looked on the scale, so I think if Richardson Hitchens go to 147, or even Tio, right? Tio go to 147. I think it's about that time that he moves up to 147. So I think that's a good fight as well too. Who else? Who else is at 147 that
Well, we're definitely big Richardson Hitchens fans here, and we were bummed that he didn't make it to the fight on Saturday.
I asked some questions about the Sutton, like you mentioned, he looked kind of funny on the scale, and then like the stepping away day of the fight. It was a lot of stuff going on that day. It was a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, he looked very flat to me. When I looked at Oscar Duarte, he looked full, he looked healthy, he looked like he was ready to go. When I looked at Hitchens, I was like, I'm not really liking. I think it might be that time to go to 140, go to 147. Keyshawn Davis is talking about going to 147 as well too. That could possibly be a matchup for Ryan. I just think I like the Shakur fight, but I'm not really sold on the fight like that. I think there's other fights for Shakur as well too, where he can stay at 140.
Right. Well, I guess for me, I want to see what Shakur does next and fight anybody just because he has this newfound stardom, and I just want to see, like, sure, fight the other guy that it was and probably came back from career ruin or whatever you want to call it. But I did say that I kind of said the same thing as you, Legend, that I would take a Ryan Haney rematch to see it done right. I mean, his victory was literally tainted after that. So I don't know. I mean, how? let me ask this, and we feel free to speculate for both of you. I'll start with you, Legend. But are we going to see Ryan keep this up? Keep this level of focus and skill in the ring up, or are we just kind of expecting him to, ride the wave and then crash back down like he did, the last few fights?
In my opinion, I think we're gonna see this Ryan a little bit more, right? He just wanted a title. I think there's motivation behind that now. I think he understands the severity of not showing up for these fights, right? And how it can cost you, and where mentally it can take you, right? And I don't think anybody wants to go to that dark place, like, willingly, right? So I think, with this right here, I think this is a good stepping stone for him. And I think him fighting Barrios and being able to show a little bit more, right? Because a lot of people was just talking about the right hand. I thought the jab was beautiful that night, right? I thought his face was beautiful. I thought the moving around. So I think Ryan, can go back and watch that and say, man, when I'm on top of my game and I'm healthy and I'm in the right space, I feel like I can be anybody, right? That's supposed to be the mindset of a fighter, right? When you go into a fight like how he performed against Rolly, there's a lot of doubt, right? After that performance, there's a lot of doubt. But when you put on a spectacular performance like that, right? I gave it an A. I didn't give it an A plus like a lot of people. I gave it an A because I felt like Ryan could have did a little bit more work to the body. But outside of that, I thought he put on a great performance. So I think we see a little bit more of that.
Okay, Jamieson. Yeah, do you think we're gonna see the new Ryan, or is it just a blip on the radar?
I think I think the chances are higher than they were 2 weeks ago when we spoke about him. My thing is this: what happens when he goes up a notch in competition? Like, with all due respect, Barrios is not the same guy as any of the guys we've been mentioning over the last 10 minutes. Just the caliber of fighter, he's not in that quiet conversation. He's just not. So when Ryan goes up, whether it's Haney, whether it's Shakur, whether it's Hitchin, whoever it might be along the way, that caliber of fighter, what happens when he's in the ring with somebody that's just as talented, if not more talented than him, and adversity strikes? Then what happens to the same bad habits? He kind of reminds me of Amir Khan in a way, where he's talented as all hell, but once the adversity hits in the ring, all hell kind of breaks loose, and then a lot of bad habits come about. He either gets dropped or just starts being undisciplined, and then it becomes what it becomes.
Well, and my thing that I said too before this fight is that, Jamieson mentioned that even if Ryan loses and his stardom goes down, he's still a guy who can sell fights and put butts in seats. And so I thought maybe he would go in not as focused because he's like, no matter what, I'll still be a name. I'll still have my fandom, kind of coasting on that. But if it could also work the other way, like you mentioned, Legend, he's a champ now. Like he's got the high of having not just fandom but respect. I had to also give respect to Ryan for that performance after talking shit. So maybe that is just going to keep driving him. He's like, you want more, like an addict. You want more, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's quite possible. Here's the thing. All right, I guess I could finish off with this. It is always better for boxing if Ryan is a talented, bankable boxing star. Okay. My problem was that I don't think he really had it in him to put in a super great performance, be a great fighter, and was coasting off social media, the shenanigans that people talked about, that he got into. And I didn't want him at the top because I thought other people deserved it. But if he turns into the fighter that deserves it, cool, man. I'm coming back. I'm there for the next Ryan Garcia fight.
Now, let me ask you: Do you think that his last performance showed you that he does deserve it?
It shows me that if he keeps this up consistently, as Jamieson said, yeah, he deserves to be the main event in fights. Yes, I was saying that he could be the fight before the main event, and I would tune in. I would watch because I just love watching fights. But if he looks like that, and one I think underrated thing that hasn't been mentioned about him was defense that night. Like his defense was on point. I expected Mario Barrios to come learn from his loss to Tank, learn from his loss to Pacquiao, and come with that ring IQ, just top tier. Avoid the hard punches, win probably on points and not a stoppage or a knockdown. But my man, you let me down. You did not do that shit. Your ring IQ.
A lot of people told me that they feel like Barrios had more. He had more skill sets than Ryan. So a lot of people felt like he will be able to win. I didn't totally agree with it, right? Because when I watch Barrios, it's almost like the same thing. He's a warrior at heart, right? So he's gonna come forward. He's gonna, he's gonna try to overwhelm you at times, and throw his combinations. But I just felt like the speed of Ryan, and I knew, and I kept telling people this. I said they keep worrying about the left hand. Ryan is gonna work on his right. I'm telling y'all because what do you that's the second surprise right there, right? Like, why keep throwing the same punch? And I know and you have my former trainer with you. So I have to switch it up because he know me best, right? So I know he's gonna be whispering in your ear and telling you a whole bunch of things. And I think what Joe had said after the fight, he said that they train for the right hand. But there's a difference between training for the right hand and expecting the right hand. Right? You could train for it, but you still may not be expecting the right hand, right? Because Ryan. Well, most people would say Ryan typically doesn't throw the right hand that much.
Sure, and let's also. I don't want to poo-poo Barrios or what he did in the ring. He made it. He went the distance. He got hit some real strong shots. He got put down in the first round, but he said he's a warrior, and credit to him for. I wouldn't say that he was sleepwalking in the ring. or anything like that. He wasn't snoozing. But yeah, I mean, he just didn't have it that night, and Ryan did. So, but yeah, and again, I guess I'll say that like I want to watch that version of Ryan going forward. That's what I do really want. So, don't come at me acting like I just hate on the
Can
guy.
I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, of course.
If we see this version of Ryan, right, mentally strong, throwing the jab out there, speed is on point and everything like that, does he give Devin Haney more of a trouble if they was to fight in a rematch?
Jamieson, I'll let you take this one because I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
No, I agree. I think that does happen. I think that even though he got tested for PEDs in the first one, the fight was the fight. Like, if you'd have told me that he wasn't on PEDs, I don't know how much PEDs really matter when it comes to boxing. I honestly don't. Like, I've heard and all kind of different things when it comes to that, so I don't know how much. It felt like Ryan was a better fighter that night. He could have took the Barry Bonds juice all he wanted. It didn't feel like that affected anything personally. It felt like one guy was the faster, stronger guy that particular night, and it felt like Devin Haney mentally was not in that fight. Physically, it felt like mentally he was not in that fight. That being said, if Ryan uses speed and athleticism versus Haney, then we get a hell of a fight. And that's the thing. I think if everybody's clean and everything's equal, then we get one hell of a fight. With that being said, it's tough facing a guy that gave you those kind of problems earlier, and there's so much suspicion around it. Mentally, I don't know how strong Haney is to overcome all the nonsense that would go over pre-fight. I don't know if he's mature enough to handle it, because it felt like the previous fight, all that stuff that was going on pre-fight, it impacted him. It was obviously wearing on him. If Haney can be focused, tunnel vision, focusing on the fight only, then I think we get a hell of a fight, go either way. But if he allows all that shit to get to him again, and it's impacting how he trains, how he prepares, then I think Ryan wins again. And this time it'd be vindicated because it's clean. It'd be a bad look for Haney. That's why I still don't think the fight happens. I just think for Haney, it's kind of a lose-lose. If you win, it's like, okay, no one really care. Like, no one cares, but it's not like a big deal because the first one's already no contest. It's not like the Margarito and Cotto where one guy had the loaded gloves and then you had to run it back. That's something totally different. This one is like, all right, well, guy failed a PED test, but even watching the fight, it wasn't close. It was bad. I don't know how much Haney gains from this. If anything, I think Ryan has more to gain from running it back than Haney does.
Well, and on that now, I also had to publicly apologize to Devin Haney because I was expecting him to lose to Brian Norman Jr. because of the previous performances. Remember, he lost to Ryan. People said he robbed Ukraine. No, I'm sorry. Lomachenko. Sorry about that. Okay. People were like totally down to him. Said that Lomachenko absolutely should have won, and then that terrible Times Square fight that he just was asleep at the wheel. So it's kind of the same thing. Him coming back against Brian Norman was a Devin Haney 2.0, just like Ryan is. But yeah, based on what Ryan looks like, I think he would give Devin Haney problems at a rematch. Yes. Completely clean, above board, 100% on the level. I still think especially this version of Ryan, both with the speed and strength and focus and defense, would be a problem for Devin Haney. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that rematch, but I don't know. I definitely I would be most excited about a Ryan Shakur fight because that's yet another level for Shakur to demonstrate where his skills lie. You know what I mean? Because he's been kind of just with time showing, well, I can put on an exciting fight and I can, have good defense, but also be aggressive and have power and blah, 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 blah. So that's yet another feather in Shakur's cap if he goes in the ring against Ryan and beats him. So I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's all I'll say. Really exciting fight, I gotta say. Even though I was just seeing all of the hate comments in my head, just calling me an idiot. I'm like, you know what? It's still why I love boxing, and anything could happen. So
you're right. This sport of boxing, anything can happen. A lot. It's crazy. You can give a prediction, and then people are like, oh, you don't know boxing because you predicted the other outcome of the fight. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of people just they get overly excited and stuff like that.
Sure. But at the end of the day, hey, we're all here to talk about the greatest sport in the world because we love it so much. So,
absolutely,
it's all in good fun and good faith. So, let's actually switch up tracks to from some really, really young, exciting fighters to a few Grampies that are coming back in the ring soon. Turns out we've got Mayweather versus Tyson in the spring, which Jamieson sent that to the group chat. I immediately was like, that's AI. Come on, don't give me this. That's not true. It can't be true. Part of me still doesn't believe it. I've read the news story. I still don't believe it. And then again, Mayweather versus Pacquiao 2 in September. So, Legend, how do you feel about these Grampies coming back in the ring? Is it something that's good for the sport, or is it totally nostalgia, cash grab?
Man, listen, man. I don't want to see it. You know what I mean? I don't want to see it. I'm gonna watch it, of course, right? Those are one of my two favorite fighters. But no, I don't want to see it. I think sometimes, sometimes it's better just to leave versus you doing it just for just for the entertainment purposes or the money and stuff like that. Because it ruins it, right? Like they're not in their prime anymore. They're older now. They got grandkids and all the stuff like that, right? So it's like for me, I don't want to see. I don't want to see a Mike Tyson versus a Floyd Money Mayweather. I don't want to see. Mike Tyson is what, like 60 years old, something like that. Floyd is about 49. I don't really, like I said, I'm gonna watch it. But if you ask me if I was excited about it, no, I'm not gonna call everybody up and say, hey, let's have this fight party tonight. I'm not gonna do that.
Well, okay, then let me ask you this, because of course, you can't take away what living legends these guys are, literally. But you had the time when they were so excited to watch the fight, it was appointment watching. But why are you still going to watch it, knowing that they're Grampies? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even coming at you or anything. I'm just saying, like,
for sure.
What do people feel like they're getting out of this? Knowing that these guys are already past their prime, they're old. Like, if you're going to watch it, what is the best possible outcome for you as a fan? Do you want to see a really great fight? Is it just because it makes you feel young again? I don't know. I mean, what's the reason?
I guess for me personally, it's just I guess the entertainment aspect, and you can look at it and say, well, they fight in two different weight classes. That's number one, right? If they were younger, it'd be completely different weight classes. But I just think it's for me, it's just be supporting two legends that that I grew up watching, and me being active, as far as speaking about fights and stuff like that, I have to watch it, right? In a sense,
sure, of course.
But if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I just think of it's Floyd Money Mayweather, right? Same reason why I watched Floyd fight Logan Paul, same reason why I watched Mike Tyson fight Jake Paul. It's more so of them. And I guess their their aura, what they did to the sport, or did for the sport rather, and all the accolades and their skill sets and stuff like that. So I guess it's just something cool to do, something cool to watch.
I guess I can't feel the same way. I mean, I skipped out on the Tyson and Paul and Mayweather and Logan. Actually, well, that's not true. I'm sorry. I don't want to lie. I watched the Mayweather Paul fight only because Deezus and Mero were doing the commentary. That's the only reason. But they weren't even that funny. They weren't even that funny. And I realized that was when right around when their beef was happening, but that's a whole other conversation. But I just feel like supporting the legends. For me to support these legends, it's by not watching this and not feeding into this for me. But Jamieson, what about you? How you feel about Mayweather coming back?
All this shit's a recession indicator. All this is a recession indicator. Shit's bad outside. Things is bad. People ain't got it, and they do whatever they can to get it. I'm not happy. I don't like counting other men's pockets. I wasn't raised like that. That's not what I do. Right. However, if Floyd made all that damn money on that Showtime contract, if he's any kind of close to being broke, we have a huge problem. He doesn't have multiple nights of $200 million fights. Like, what are we talking about? Like, with all due respect, there should not be the word boxing. Boxing should not even be a word, a sentence. It shouldn't even be talking about that. Like, we're missing something here. And I know there's a lawsuit going on between him and Al Heyman and Schaefer and I know there's some legal stuff going on, so that's a whole different thing. But he's made way too much money over that last Showtime contract and the exhibition since then for this to even be a. I hope he's doing it for the fun of it. I really, truly hope so. But we know boxers don't box in their late 40s, early 50s just because. We are not slow. We know how this goes. Roy Jones just finished fighting a couple years ago because he owed taxes. We know how this shit goes. Now, with all that being said, like Legend mentioned, they're in different weight classes. To me, that's a turnoff by itself. At least Floyd and Manny are similar in size and stature and weight classes. Mike Tyson gonna be 240 in the ring with time comes. Like, what are we doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this is not cool. This ain't really cool, but again, I get it because if someone has a check for you and you don't have a whole lot of other ways of getting a check, you're gonna do what it takes to get said check. So business wise, of course I get it. We're not stupid. We know what's going on. But boxing wise, I'm disgusted. Like, I'm truly disgusted because it's not gonna be a real fight. It's gonna be a bunch of pitter pattering. And Mike, we saw Tyson's last fight. After the first half of round one, it was over. He didn't have no endurance to fight. So I'm all bad over here. I'm all mad over it.
I'm not as angry, but I'm definitely disinterested. I mean, when it comes to these older folks, like, I'm happy to never see them in the ring ever again. Hell, Julio Cesar Chavez, like, that's the guy that got me into boxing when I was a baby. And he came back to do something like a few years ago in Mexico, but you could tell that was just him having fun, fucking around. He was kind of just chatting with Canelo in between rounds, stuff like that. But I'm happy to never see Julio Cesar Chavez back in the ring ever again. But let's speak specifically about Mayweather versus Pacquiao, because the Tyson thing, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But same thing. I'd be happy to never see Pacquiao back in the ring, let him retire and enjoy his life. I will give him credit for coming back to fight Mario Barrios because it was challenging for a title. It wasn't just an exhibition. So that's kind of what I would want, a real fight. But in terms of them being, same age, weight class, skill level back in the day, how are you feeling about that, Legend? Is that fight particularly is that going to be more competitive, more exciting, more realistic than just kind of pitter-pattering around with Tyson in the ring?
I think so. I think Manny really wants to beat Floyd, right? Because of the first fight, right? Does he do it? We don't know. We have to see. But I think, Manny, I've heard in an interview him mentioning that he was the one that pushed for the fight to actually be a real fight and not an exhibition. That Floyd was trying to do an exhibition. So I tip my hat off to him, for pushing that, right? But I watched Manny Pacquiao when he fought Mario Barrios, and he looked great for his age, but he looked every bit of 46 years old, right? So I know a lot of people say, oh man, he looks beautiful for his age. Remember, boxing is a young man's sport, right? But we got two older guys going in there right now, right? Floyd, I believe, is 2 years older than Manny Pacquiao. So I would have been fine with them not fighting each other, to be honest with you, right? I didn't want to see Floyd fight again, right? I didn't want to see Pacquiao fight again. But like Jamieson said, right, this is a business, and we understand that the money and the politics, and usually when fighters come back, it's because funds might be a little low. They might be in something, right? So I think this fight. I'm not even excited about it, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people probably like, oh man, but these are my two favorite grandfathers, not by blood, but coming to the barbecue, and we having a good time, So I'm not really excited about it. I think Floyd, if they fight, I do think Floyd will win, but we have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely expecting a Floyd win on this, but Jamieson, yeah, I mean, that fight was. We've talked about how that fight when it happened was already late when they finally matched up. So this is like what we said, maybe like 10 years too late, later than it should have been, or something like that. Now this
that was
is
11 years ago too. Think about that. It was 11 years ago.
11 years ago, yeah.
Like that, and that was like it was at least at minimum 5 years late then. So we're talking about 2026. They running it back, and like Legend said, Manny pushed for it to be a real fight, but like he said, the last fight he looked all of 46, and the type of fighter Manny is, speed, agility, athleticism, that all declined severely well before 46. So him trying to ramp that back up again to fight a guy that's more athletic than him, has more reach over him, that's still faster than him. I don't get it. And I saw Floyd, he's drinking the water, every day. He still looks in amazing shape like he always does. The smarts don't leave. I still think whenever the fight would have took place, I think the results were going to be the same results. But man, we don't need this in 2026. We don't. Like, no one asked for this. No one did. No one asked for this.
Well, and this is my problem. Sort of the issue that I have overall with boxing when it does this is that we know it's going to do numbers. We know people are going to tune in, but yeah, nobody asked for it, nobody wanted it, and it's just kind of like, well, I know that name. I feel like it's kind of like nostalgia is a little too heavy-handed these days. Like, hey, we're all going to get old. Everybody, we're all going to die. We're all going to we just need to accept that. We just need to stop trying to hold on to youth. Damn it, Like it actually really bothers me in a different way than it bothers Jameson, because people keep doing this fights that nobody asked for, nobody wants for the money. But I don't. Is this going to get like young fans, new fans of boxing saying like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about my dad, my grandpa talked about Mayweather, and Pacquiao, and it was their favorite fighter, so I'll tune in to watch." I don't think so. Will they?
No, I don't think so. And here's the thing, right? If we get the younger guys that are gonna watch, it's almost like you won't appreciate Floyd, you won't appreciate Pacquiao for what they've done. You're gonna look at them for who they are now. That's just what it is, right? Because visual is everything, right? So if I see Floyd going in and he looks slow and he doesn't have power, and Pacquiao doesn't have the same foot speed like he used to, the some of the people that's coming up, if they're not really in tune with boxing, it's almost like a disservice, because they're going to take away from these great fighters, right? Like, Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson. It does something to the fans that didn't really get a chance to see Iron Mike Tyson, right? It does something when you see Mike Tyson and he looks heavier, he looks slower. He's not countering the way he used to counter. So I think it does a disservice, not only to the fans, but to the sport of boxing as well too. I think you leave and say, you know what, I left on top, or if you lost, right? Hey, cool, I lost. Like, not to go too crazy, but same thing like I said with Canelo, right? Like, I wouldn't have mind Canelo retiring after he fought Bud, because there's no shame in retiring to a great fighter. Hey, look, I lost a step or two, or whatever the case may be. I know he's not going to think that, but in essence, what I'm saying is that you don't always have to retire on top, right? 50-0, whatever the case may be, because your legacy means something. And obviously, we heard Floyd say that you don't feed your family off legacy, but
and that's true. We can't sit here and argue that, say that's right. That's bullshit or whatever. I mean, it's 100% true. Sure. Yeah, I guess my thing that I always think about is just like, a really good point you mentioned, Legend, is people that didn't get to see Iron Mike. Jameson and I, we weren't alive during Tyson's prime, or weren't old enough to watch prime Tyson. But it's kind of different than saying like, oh, I don't know, let's say like, oh, we're gonna go watch who's an old guy, Sting, Elton John, doing a show after his last show that I didn't get to see him in his prime. Those old guys being in concert and kind of experience that is way different than seeing a fighter who, you just can't keep doing that. Elton John keep singing till his 90 possibly, but you can't keep getting in the ring and fighting when you're in your 50s. My God. So that's kind of an aside, just kind of my thoughts going while you were talking.
You know what they always say, you can't play boxing, right? This is not a place where you can play, right? There's no, once you put them 8-ounce gloves on, is playtime is over. And, you want to see your favorite fighters leave with all their faculties, because it only takes is one good shot.
That's another thing they wouldn't even mention. Yeah, the risk that they're taking on getting in that ring. And we mentioned too when Pacquiao came back against Barrios, and I said, by the way, Barrios should have done a better job. He should have beat Pacquiao, who's a Grampy. Like, yes, he's a legend, but he's still close to 50. Come on, man. But that's neither here nor there. He looked great for his age, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, that prime Manny was 20 years ago, okay? And the Floyd fight was 11 years ago. And sometimes you guys leave that in the past. So I don't know. I mean, who else do we expect to come out of retirement? Do you expect Roy Jones to come back yet again and do something in the ring?
Roy Jones, he just might. Why not? If Pacquiao and Floyd doing, I think, who also I think is going to come back? Andre Ward. I think Andre Ward eventually comes back out of retirement. I think he gets. I think he get a fight in.
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see that. Actually, he's hinted too much about it over the last 18 months for it not to be something there. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. I just listened to an interview with him and Bill Haney, and Bill Haney said, "Hey, look," and Andre Ward was saying, I stay in shape. I'm still in the gym. I'm still working. We seen him working with Bud a few times, and getting staying acclimated and everything like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. I know at one point in time he called out Anthony Joshua. So hey, we never know.
Yeah.
I think should we put a lot of the blame on Sylvester Stallone still coming back for Rocky movies, doing part like 6 and 7 when he's 90? I mean, and he's still getting in the ring. Like, bro, stop it.
It ain't that. It's the corporate sponsors behind it. The people putting up the money. That it's on them. Because here's the thing: if nobody puts up money, there's no fight. But if you got the powers that be saying, "Hey, we got $50 million for this fight, make it happen," well, who's going to decline $50 million? I know I'm not. I know y'all not. So what we talking about?
Right.
I'll get in the ring with Floyd Mayweather for $50 million because then I'll die and then my family gets $45 million after taxes, whatever it is.
You can run around and then on the first hit you take a knee and that's it. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll go out with a bang, and then my mom and sisters will be taken care of for the rest of their lives.
Everybody's good, right?
Exactly. Oh man. Well, I don't know. I mean,
then we see a lot of the fighters, the way the fighters. When you looking at, like you say, Floyd, and you looking at Pacquiao, and they're saying like, man, like these guys is making some money. Floyd made some money, so it's not new to him, right? But when you got Netflix being involved, I don't know if Turkey might be involved with this, so you have different corporations that got their hands into, and you got two of the biggest legends to ever lace up gloves. It sells, right? And then you run with the story of when people said that Manny Pacquiao had a messed up shoulder when he fought Floyd. So a lot of people want to know, okay, was it the shoulder or did Floyd really, like I said earlier, right? Like story sells. And that's if you're doing music, if you're in sports, entertainment, story sells. And I think a lot of the Manny Pacquiao diehard fans want to know, right? Like, was it the shoulder or was Floyd just a better fighter that night?
Well, you could have answered that question, I don't know, a year after that fight, not
sure.
11. Yeah, I mean, I think, and I think people lean too heavily on that story as well as what could have been, what could have happened. When that happens, when people ask stuff like, oh, Tyson versus Ali kind of a thing, I never get into any of those like dream matchups. I don't know, Legend. I'm sure you have people ask you those things like, what if prime such and such, what prime such and such? I always never speculate because the way I think about it is there's fights that can be made now with fighters that are active now, and I'd rather spend my energy with that. How do you feel when people ask you, like, what about Prime Tyson versus Ali? Like, do you ever think about that or care about that?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's cool, because I know that the entertainment side, when people want to talk about that stuff or just regular, boxing talk. But no, I don't really get heavily involved in it because it didn't exist, right? And then we can throw the narratives and stuff like that and spin it however we want to spin it. But it's for me, it's pointless at times, right? Because like you said, we got fighters today that are active, that is ready to go. The 140 division is looking scary right now. We got the 140, a lot of those fighters going up to 140. So there's so much has happening. The heavyweight division is trying to come back and build it up. So I'd rather spend a lot of my energy focused on the guys that are present.
Gotcha. Well, and you brought up the heavyweight division, and we talk a lot about heavyweight division and how American fighters have just fallen right off the rankings. I looked up rankings recently, and the only American name I saw was Jared the Big Baby Anderson, who I was rooting for. But what do you see the heavyweight division going forward, Legend? I mean, a lot of the Eastern European fighters either retiring or kind of on the way out. Usyk, he's going to fight again, but we don't really see him, having a long career. What do we have to look forward to for the heavyweight division as boxing fans overall?
I don't know. And to be honest with you, I feel like the heavyweight needs a Deontay Wilder, right? Needs a and I get, a lot of people may not say, he's, the most skillful fighter. But when we think about the heavyweight fighters back in the days, it wasn't really about skills. It was about knockouts, right? We knew these guys was going in and knock your shoulders off, right? So what happened is I think the game has evolved so much as far as skill wise that we almost started to put that on the heavyweight guys now, right? So that essence kind of, it kind of took away from the heavyweight. So now that you got a guy like Usyk who's very crafty, more skillful, right? He relies on his craftiness. Where you had a Deontay Wilder who's coming in there trying to knock your head off. You got a Tyson Fury, very skillful. So I think the heavyweight division, I think people just are missing that ferociousness, right? They like leave the pretty stuff to the lightweight guys, right? Like all that moving around, shoulder roll, leave that to them, right? We want to see knockouts, right? And so I think that's kind of where it's at. Obviously, as they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So it's kind of like it's like a double-edged sword when it comes to the heavyweight division right now. But I'm not as excited with the heavyweight division at this moment. I feel like we just need to get some guys in there that's coming in, that's going to be brutes, they coming in with that ferocious. Not saying, take unnecessary punishment, but it needs to get back to that ferociousness, in my opinion.
Jamieson, yeah.
That's why Wilder was such a interesting character, because he was a knockout guy. He wasn't a great boxer. He was a knockout guy. That's why people wanted to see him fight. We wasn't there to see his sweet science. We wasn't there for that. We were there to see him either get dropped or drop somebody. That's it. And that's why he made a lot of money in a relatively short amount of time. And like Legend said, that's the heavyweight division. Like, we're not here for the technical guy when it comes to the heavyweight. We're here to see somebody get dropped. And when you see big guys, go 12 rounds, no one is in threat of getting dropped, that's not what the casual fans here for. We'll mess with it because we like boxing, so we'll be cool with it. But the heavyweight is more for the casual fan. Casual fan sees two guys over 230 pounds slugging it out. They're expecting somebody to get dropped. When that doesn't happen for 10, 12, 20 years, you lose interest. The little guys, it's hit or miss. It is what it is. But the big guys, they're expecting somebody to get dropped, and really in great fashion, like in the Hall of Fame. Like, oh, did you see that the other night? That's what's been missing from the heavyweight division for a long time, outside of Wilder and a couple. Obviously Joshua got dropped by old boy. That's way out of shape by Andy Ruiz. So there's been things that happen. It ain't been. It used to be like every month or every other month. Now it's like every other year. That's the issue.
That too.
That's a really great point. I mean, I suffer as much as anybody from recency bias, and Usyk's like the biggest guy right now, and the biggest star right now in the heavyweight division. And you think like, oh well, he's a great heavyweight, he's a great fighter, he moves well, he's technical, blah blah blah. He was able to take down Fury, who's a brute, because of those skills, footwork, etc. But I think about that and I'm like, well, that's not typically what a heavyweight is. You guys are totally right. And Wilder, yes, I've always said I really like Deontay Wilder. I think it's good that he's in the sport and he's been a part of the heavyweight division. But I think we need a guy who's just better at the boxing side than Wilder. Like, has the power, has the ferociousness, and I try not to sound like a hater because, of course, I respect these guys. But I mean, yeah, that's Wilder's always had that ceiling. Like, he's never been able to break through that ceiling, as far as I'm concerned.
When I first was watching Deontay Wilder, I said he's going to run into somebody that's more skilled, more crafty, and they're going to show that there's levels. And we seen that, right? Although I know he dropped Tyson Fury and stuff like that, right? And in his opinion, he felt like he won it, or he was robbed, or what have you. But there was still a skill level gap, right? And then when he fought Big Zing, right? He fought Big Zing, and you seen the skill level. So when Wilder start going up against guys that are a little bit more skillful than him, and he starts to look a little bit more amateurish, in my opinion, right? Because we know that he got a brick hand, got a right brick hand, and he got a nice, decent left hook. But when you got a guy that's just a power puncher, but doesn't really have other things in their arsenal, when you go against a guy that's here, you're gonna look average, right? And I think when he went against those guys, people was just like, man, this guy, he's not what. But it's like, no, he's everything that we said he was. He was a knockout artist. Nobody claimed that he was this. He was the heavyweight version of Floyd Money Mayweather.
Sure. And you said that, when you got somebody who's a strong puncher and goes against somebody who has higher skills, you're going to look amateur. That's what I was saying about Ryan Garcia. God damn it. That's literally with a by point. But yeah, well,
Well,
let's.
it depends, right? It depends on how we look at it, right? Because, like, say for Ryan, right, his the he may not be the most fundamentally sound as far as a pure boxer, but Ryan has a lot of things that works for him that Deontay Wilder may not have things that work for him, right? So, say for example, let's say we have Shakur and Ryan. We know that Shakur is more of the purest boxer, right? But what works for Ryan is his speed. He has great timing as well, right? And he has power. So, and I would think that even though they're in two different weight classes, I would think that he's a little bit more skillful than a Deontay Wilder, right? So he has more to bring to the table, but fighting guys that have a whole bunch of power and you are a purist boxer, that guy is still a dangerous guy because they could turn your lights out at any point in time, right? And then a lot of guys, I've seen guys who were pure boxer that lost to the guy that was aggressive, that had knockout power, that and had a lot of heart, because sometimes hey, look, my will is going to win this fight for me. And although you're a pure boxer, I don't think you're willing to go to the level that I'm willing to go to in deep waters. And I think Ryan, and now hear me out when I say this, I think if Ryan, not to go all the way back to them, but I feel like if Ryan was to go to fight Shakur, I think at some point in time in that fight, Ryan may say to himself, I got to get crazy a little bit because I'm not going to outbox this guy. Yep. So if I can make, and now when Shakur fought Williams Zepeda is a volume puncher, right? So when he drops you, it's because of punches and bunches. You could prepare for that a little bit more versus a guy that has speed and good timing and that can counter, and he's dangerous at any point in time, right? So if Shakur, I think Shakur wins, but those type of Ryan style is Ryan that for Barrios. It's a dangerous fight for anybody, regardless of skill level.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, the worst part is somebody with power and can figure out how to be surgical with those punches. Right. That's it. That's that's going to be lights out for pretty much anybody because anyone can get caught. Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's actually switch tracks a little bit because we have a fight happening. I'm in Tucson. We have a fight happening in Phoenix this weekend. If you're listening to this episode when it comes out, Emmanuel Navarrete, El Vaquero, versus Eduardo Sugar Nunez coming this weekend, 228 in Phoenix. So, Legend, the thing that we do on our show, we're called the Mixed Company Podcast because I'm Mexican-American, Jamieson is Black. There's a lot of divide in between fandom, between Black and Hispanic fighters, and all different kinds of racial issues. A lot of racism in fandom, which we call out and we say we're not about that shit. So We're trying to bridge the divide. But out of curiosity, as another Black boxing fan, what's your insight into Mexican boxing? Do you follow it? Do you have any favorite Mexican fighters? Do you have Mexican fans that call you racist shit on your comments? Just out of curiosity, what your relationship is to Mexican boxing.
Man, I love Mexican boxing, man. I love the style, right? I've fought and sparred against a lot of Mexicans, and I've always said, man, them Mexican fighters is the hardest guys to get out the ring. They just keep coming. They don't care. The style. Actually, this style actually helped me in my training camps as well too. Right. I had a guy that I used to spar with. His name was Eric Gomez. Right, and Eric Gomez was he was a tough fighter. Right, and the reason why I love fighting him is because of the mindset that he had, and he used to make me fight. And he used to say, listen, when you get in that ring, right, you got the skills, but sometimes it's going to be your will that also helps you pay the bills as well too, right? So I love the Mexican style. I'm a fan of Robert Garcia. I love his coaching style. Raymond Mortaya, I like him, right? David Benavidez, I know a lot of people, Canelo Alvarez, Julio Chavez, right? Chavez, I'm real big on the Mexican culture in the boxing community, and my community of Mexican just fans, they show me a lot of love. So I love the Mexican community in boxing because they die hard boxing fans, and they gonna stick behind you, right? Like even if you lose, but you go in there and you give it your all, you put blood, sweat, and tears. They're not turning their backs on you, man.
Well, and a question I forgot to ask you mentioned that you fought a lot of Mexican fighters in Mexico. What weight class were you in? Because Mexicans are usually little guys, except that Andy Ruiz.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yes, I was saying most of the Mexicans are little fighters. What were yours weight class?
168.
168. Okay.
So you kind of.
And when you fought in Mexico, did you fight actual Mexican fighters or people from other places in the world?
No, yeah, it was a mixture. So there's other people that come. Like I fought against some Black Americans as well too. I fought against different guys because a lot of fighters tend to come to Mexico. Like Devin Haney, he came to Mexico. He fought. Oshaki Foster came out to Mexico and he fought a couple of fights in those. So you'll see a different variety of different guys as well too. So. 168. I've been on. It's crazy, and a lot of people don't know this, but I actually sparred Danny Jacobs around the time he was getting ready to fight Canelo. And so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool, helping him get ready for a little bit for that fight as well.
Awesome. Well,
I wouldn't say helping him get ready for the fight, but we shared the ring with each other.
Oh no, hey, iron sharpens iron. Well, in preparation for the fight, actually, our show got invited to do a media day for Navarrete versus Nunez, and I got to interview both those guys and a bunch of guys fighting on the card, which is awesome. We have a special video up on YouTube of my interviews there. There's a guy fighting named Jordan Martinez. He's out of Phoenix, and he had something really interesting to say when I asked him about what he wants going forward for his career. Check this out.
Do you have like one name that you want that call? Like,
anyway.
What did he say?
Anyway, right out the bag, Yeah, because I mean, he's the one that's, I guess you could say, the monster, the one that's untouchable. Kind of like Mike Tyson in his era, he's untouchable, unbeatable. So I want to be the first one to show that he ain't really like that.
I love the energy, though. I love the confidence. I can't knock it. I love the confidence.
Right? I just straight up calling him out. Plus on our show, so that's a Mixed Company podcast exclusive.
Shout out to y'all, man.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan Martinez. So, just what's your take on Naoya Inoue? And is he unbeatable? Is he the next legend in boxing, or is there a guy that can actually take him on? And is it going to be a guy from Phoenix? Because the two times he's been put down, it's been by Mexican guys. Just FYI.
No, I think he's beatable. I think it's just going to take the right dance partner to get in there with him, right? But he's a hell of a fighter. I can't take nothing away from him. The thing that I love about Inoue is that I don't like the fact that he consistently might get dropped or whatever the case may be. But when he does get dropped, he doesn't tuck his tail, right? He's coming back to fight you. And he's coming back to get one up on you. So I love that mindset. Like him getting dropped doesn't rattle him. It doesn't change, or like I said, go, hiding and not want to fight. It actually brings more out of him. So I think, Inoue is definitely a problem for anyone. And it's going to take somebody special to beat him as well, too.
Absolutely. Do y'all have any favorite call outs in history of when boxers after the ring call out a big name that let's just say without being disrespectful, someone who's you would think is way above their punching class?
Go ahead, James.
Not a call out per se, but when Tito and B-Hop were promoting the fight in Puerto Rico about 26 years ago, and B-Hop threw the Puerto Rican flag down and he either stumped on it or did something. He did something disrespectful. And at the time, B-Hop was like a big underdog. Like it wasn't like that fight kind of propelled B-Hop to have the run he had with all the title defenses and all that. But before then, B-Hop was that was Tito after the De La Hoya fights. So Tito was like the man at that point. So that was kind of just thinking at that point that I could think of that. But Biombo was still a name, but he wasn't the name we grew to love. And over the next 15 years, it wasn't that. But yeah, that was something I could think of.
That's a wild one. You got one, Legend?
I might have to go with the most recent one, right? And go with Teofimo Lopez and Terrence Crawford. I think, when Teo called out Crawford, I was like, I said, what? You want to fight? You want to fight who? Man, don't do it to yourself, Teo. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. This man went up 3 weight classes and beat Canelo. Canelo, who's been there at 168 for the last 10 years or so. What are you talking about? What you gonna show Bud that he ain't never seen before, champ? So when I heard Teo say that, I was like, yeah, you gotta be trolling or you on some special type of medication right now, champ. I don't know.
That was pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
He couldn't even do nothing with Crawford's little homie. He ain't doing nothing with Bud. So yeah, like nah, man, nah.
Yeah. I just thought that was crazy.
No, that's a photo for sure. Especially, and you know what? What's funny? It's like he already said he's retired. It's kind of like me saying, like, I don't know. It's like, oh man, I could totally hook up with Marilyn Monroe if I met her. Like, come on, bro. Like that's a pretty easy kind of safe face. I'm like, yeah, I'd fight Bud. It's like, yeah, but you're not going to get that fight, and even if you did, you'd get clowned in the ring. I'm sorry.
Oh, you going to get him? You thought Shakur did something to you, man? You don't mess around with Bud if you want, man.
Here's the thing about Shakur, that he definitely appeared to show more power as he went up a little bit on weight class and trained better. But like, he's never really shown a lot of that power. But always has. Like, Bud has always had speed, power, and defense. So yeah, I mean, I guess maybe he just got his ass kicked so much, his kind of brain rattled around a bit, and he was like, you know what happened? Is like, who do you want to fight? He was looking around like, that guy, yeah.
But Teo has always been crazy, right? So sure. You never know what to expect from Teo, and anytime Teo grabs the microphone or without the microphone, you can expect him to beat Teofimo Lopez, which is say something that might be nonsensical, right? And then you might have to do a double take at Teo, but
I think that's part of the problem is that you don't want to give him the mic too much because he gets a little dicey sometimes. But that's why I said before the Shakur and Teo fight that it's probably better if we have Shakur as the new face ambassador for the sport to get new people in, and maybe tell Teo, shut up, stay over there.
Let me ask you, do you think that Shakur has the marketing ability, the charisma, do you think that he has that to carry this sport?
Jamieson, you take this one.
No, I don't. I think his marketability is going to be winning and winning often. I think him being a 2.5 fight per year on an average of 3 years type of guy, where he's fighting at least twice, and then depending on when the calendar fits, 3 fights in a calendar year. I think that's his marketing, where he's just really balling out, and he's also being seen and heard at other fights and other platforms. I think that's his marketing. He's not the guy that's going to do nothing crazy outside. He's not a Broner type. He's not a Garcia type where they do something crazy to gain casual people that way. But I think his boxing is his marketing. I just don't know how far that goes. That's my biggest concern with him long term. Like, that's why I suggested him fighting Ryan, because if he beats Ryan, if he dominates Ryan, you put a whole lot of more casual fans onto Shakur, and that takes off a life of its own. So that's why I suggested that earlier, because once you get something like that, it helps with your question just asked.
I think he's definitely doing the right thing and getting his face out there. Like I said, I mean, he's a good-looking guy. He's adorable. He's got the dimple. He's funny. He's charming on the mic. He's quick on his feet. He knows his boxing history. You can tell he loves the sport and he loves repping it. And the thing too is he pops up, and I'm surprised to see him. Like, I had no idea he'd be there over the weekend. Plus, I don't know what, like 4-5 months ago, there was an overtime boxing event in Houston, where I'm from, that I was just put on randomly on Saturday, and the commentators were like, "Oh, we got a guest commentator here." I was like, "What rando, mechanic that fought like 10 fights from Houston did you get?" And it was Shakur Stevenson. He showed up to do just for OTX, and just chatting about this. I think it was just after Canelo Crawford, because they were talking about that. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got the skills, like on the mic, on camera, and he does have enough charisma to get his name out there. Plus, the whole thing about him being named after Tupac Shakur, his name being Shakur Stevenson. That's kind of a quick, easy to remember kind of a name, you know.
Right.
Yeah. No offense to Jesus, I was gonna say Yanni Beck. You know, sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying that, like, you know,
Yeah.
It's a marketable name. You know, kid from the East Coast. You know, I definitely think that he's gonna grab people's attention. And yeah, if people see him fight and then they see him again, they're like, I know that kid, Jersey kid, dimple, blah blah blah, and he's going to sort of just continue, you know, gathering a fan base. So I think I'm a little bit more confident in his ability with the charisma on the mic, etc. Than that,
Gotcha.
apart from just the fighting, of course. So, but good question, man. This has been a really great conversation. It actually went longer than I expected. So don't want to keep you much longer, Legend, because I know you got your own social media to get to. But let's wrap it up and tell people where we can find you, social media, plug your YouTube, everything. Please let us know where we can hear more of your insights.
Yes. First of all, appreciate y'all having me on once again. I appreciate the time, and I had a blast here. For everybody, they can find me on TikTok at Boxing Legends Lounge, Instagram as Boxing Legends Lounge. I'm not really on Instagram the way I should be, but I will pick it up over there. And on YouTube at Boxing Legends Lounge as well too. Everybody can follow me there. So yeah, you know, just excited. Once again, I'm excited to be a part of this, and I appreciate y'all having me. Have some great insights, some great takes, and you know, I look forward to, you know, meeting you guys, you know, one more time.
Absolutely. Oh, you've been great on the show. You absolutely fit so well with our vibe and everything. You will absolutely be back. So don't one more plug for Legend. You will find him on this show again very soon.
Appreciate y'all having me, man.
Excellent. Jamieson, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, same thing at the Jamieson on Twitter. You know, be on there doing the fights, man. It's gonna be interesting going forward. We got a lot of fights coming up and a lot of fights to look forward to. So I think it's the first time, besides the random, you know, money grab fights, this is the first time in probably since like the mid 2000s where there's just a lot of different types of fighters fighting, and it's not like this is I'm the A side, you're the B side. Nah, it's just fights that are just happening just to happen because that's how it's supposed to be. Guys that are making fights happen, guys that are fighting to move up and to fight someone bigger and better. We finally got to that, not cherry picking fights, not being, oh, well, since I'm promoted with this company, I don't do this. No. We've gotten away from that now. So it's looking good for the future. All the younger guys, they want to fight guys. They want to fight. They want to challenge themselves to fight other guys. So it's good to see that going forward.
Absolutely. No, it's a very exciting time for boxing, and a very exciting boxing match will be happening this Saturday, February 28th, where I'll be there on site covering Navarrete versus Nunez. In the meantime, you can follow our show on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Mixed Co Podcast. Subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Please leave us a 5-star review. It only takes a minute, and it helps us out more than you can possibly know. Watch us on YouTube. The link is on the show notes, or find our playlist on the 19 Media Group channel. We have an official show email address. If you have questions about boxing, fun stories about watching boxing, send it all to letters@mixedcopodcast.com. And don't forget, we drop new episodes every other Thursday. So join us again on March 12th for Mas Fuego from the boxing world. We have been the Mixed Company Podcast, a 19 Media Group production. Thanks so much for listening, and salud.